Down, Monique. Ready? Hold on. Hold on. It's setting up for YouTube Live. In 5, 4, 3, 2,
Down, Monique.
1,
Ready?
go.
Moses spoke to the heads of the Israelite tribes, saying, "This is what the Eternal has commanded. If a householder makes a vow to the Eternal or takes an oath, imposing an obligation on himself, he shall not break his pledge. He must carry out all that has crossed his lips. If a woman makes a vow to the Eternal or assumes an obligation while still in her father's household by reasons of her youth, and her father learns of her vow or her self-imposed obligation and offers no objection, all her vows shall stand, and every self-imposed obligation shall stand. But if her father restrains her on the day he finds out, none of her vows of self-imposed obligations shall stand, and the Eternal will forgive her since her father restrained her. If she should marry while her vow or the commitment to which she bound herself is still in force, and her husband learns of it and offers no objection on the day he finds out, her vows shall stand and her self-imposed obligations shall stand. But if her husband restrains her on the day that he learns of it, he thereby annuls her vow which was in force or the commitment to which she bound herself, and the Eternal will forgive her. The vow of a widow or a divorced woman, however, whatever she has imposed on herself shall be binding upon her. So too, if while in her husband's household she makes a vow or imposes an obligation on herself by oath, and her husband learns of it, yet offers no objection, thus failing to restrain her, all her vows shall stand, and all her self-imposed obligations shall stand. But if her husband does annul them on the day he finds out, then nothing that has crossed her lips shall stand, whether vows or self-imposed obligations. Her husband has annulled them, and the Eternal will forgive her. Every vow and every sworn obligation of self-denial may be upheld by her husband or annulled by her husband. If her husband offers no objection from that day to the next, he has upheld all the vows or obligations she has assumed. He has upheld them by offering no objection on the day he found out. But if he annuls them after the day he finds out, he shall bear her guilt. Those are the laws the Eternal enjoined upon Moses between husband and his wife, and as between a father and his daughter while in her father's household by reason of her youth. The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Avenge the Israelite people on the Midianites, then you shall be gathered to your kin." Moses spoke to the militia, saying, "Let troops be picked out from among you for a campaign, and let them fall upon Midian to wreak the Eternal's vengeance on Midian. You shall dispatch on the campaign 1,000 from every one of the tribes of Israel." So 1,000 from each tribe were furnished from the divisions of Israel, 12,000 picked for the campaign. Moses dispatched them on the campaign, 1,000 from each tribe, with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, serving as a priest on the campaign, equipped with the sacred utensils and the trumpets for sounding the blast. They took the field against Midian as the Eternal had commanded Moses and slew every male. Along with their other victims, they slew the kings of Midian, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian. They also put Balaam, son of Beor, to the sword. The Israelites took the women and other non-combatants of the Midianites captive and seized as booty all their beasts, all their herds, and all their wealth. And they destroyed by fire all the towns in which they were settled in their encampments. They gathered all the spoil and all the booty, human and beast. And they brought the captives, the booty, and the spoil to Moses, Eleazar the priest, and the whole Israelite community at the camp in the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho. Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the chieftains of the community came out to meet them outside the camp. Moses became angry with the commanders of the army, the officers of thousands and the officers of hundreds who had come back from the military campaign. Moses said to them, you have spared every female, yet they are the very ones who at the bidding of Balaam induced the Israelites to trespass against the Eternal in the matter of Peor, so that the Eternal's community was struck by a plague. Now therefore slay every male among the dependents, and I'll slay also every female who has known, every woman who has known a man carnally, but spare every female dependent who has not had carnal relations with a man. You shall then stay outside the camp 7 days, everyone among you or among your captives who has slain a person or touched a corpse, shall purify himself on the 3rd and 7th days. You shall also purify every cloth, every article of skin, everything made of goat's hair, and every object of wood. Eleazar the priest said to the troops who had taken part in the fighting, this is the ritual law that the Eternal has enjoined upon Moses. Gold and silver, copper, iron, tin, and lead, any article that can withstand fire, these you shall pass through fire, and they shall be pure, except that they must be purified with waters of lustration. And anything that cannot withstand fire, you must pass through water. On the 7th day, you shall wash your clothes and be pure, and after that, you may enter the camp.
This is pretty fire and brimstone this week.
The Eternal one said to Moses, you and Eleazar the priest and the family heads of the community take an inventory of the booty that was captured, human and beast, and divide the booty equally between the combatants who engaged in the campaign and the rest of the community. You shall exact a levy for the Eternal in the case of the warriors who engaged in the campaign. 1 item in 500 of persons, oxen, asses, and sheep shall be taken from their half share and given to Eleazar the priest as a contribution to the Eternal. And from the half share of the other Israelites, you shall withhold 1. You shall withhold 1 in every 50 human beings, as well as cattle, asses, and sheep, all the animals, and give them to the Levites who tend to the duties of the Eternal's tabernacle. Moses and Eleazar the priest did as the Eternal commanded Moses. The amount of booty other than the spoil that the troops had plundered came to 675,000 sheep, 72,000 heads of cattle, 61,000 asses, and a total of 32,000 human beings, namely the females who had not had carnal relations. Thus, the half share of those who engaged in the campaign was as follows. The number of sheep was 337,500, and the Eternal's levy from the sheep was 675. The cattle came to 36,000, from which the Eternal's levy was 72. The asses came to 30,500, from which the Eternal's levy was 61. And the number of human beings was 16,000, from which the Eternal's levy was 32. Moses gave the contributions levied for the Eternal to Eleazar the priest, as the Eternal had commanded Moses.
Do you want a break?
Yeah, I'll take a break.
Okay, I have a question. Going back, can we just bring this down a little bit, Mike? Okay, it's right here. Okay, right here it says a total of 32,000 human beings, namely the females who had not had carnal relations. How do they measure that? I mean, how do they measure who had carnal relations? I always wanted to understand that.
Virgins.
What?
Virgins.
No, I understand, but how do they know who was virgin and who wasn't?
How did they know there were 675,000 sheep?
Well, that I could understand because you could count that sheep. But I mean, there might be some people that don't tell you that they were virgins. You know what I'm saying? How do they prove all this? I always find that interesting. But anyways, it was just something that popped out at me. You know me, I have to always try to figure all this out. Okay.
Isn't there a biological
examination?
What's that? Go ahead, Sharon.
To say a medical examination?
That's right. I thought there was a biological.
I see. Oh, okay. I didn't think they go. Okay. All right. Everything was kind of shared then. All right.
I don't know if they did, but that's the only true.
Yeah, I hear you.
But you know what I was thinking too, the way women were like possessions back then.
Right.
You like, how do I say it? Like the men like that controlled their lives probably are the ones that, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
probably wouldn't get a chance to.
That's right.
know?
Yeah. Okay. You're right. It's not like It's not like you're going to college and you're just screwing around or you're not screwing around.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking like at the time, it's
Right,
a possibility.
yeah.
I mean, women
Everything
had no,
was counted. You're right.
Yeah,
I just,
I don't
you know,
know.
I'm thinking too much like in 20th century, you know, that's that problem. All right. Are we ready for 42? Is that where we are?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
As to the half share of the other Israelites, which Moses withdrew from the troops who had taken the field, that half share of the community consisted of 357,500 sheep, 36,000 head of cattle, 30,500 asses, and 16,000 human beings. From this half share of the Israelites, Moses withheld 1 in every 50 humans and animals, and he gave them to the Levites, who attended to the duties of the Eternal's tabernacle, as the Eternal had commanded Moses. The commanders of the troop divisions, the officers of thousands and officers of hundreds, approached Moses. They said to Moses, "Your servants have made a check of the warriors in our charge, and not one of us is missing. So we have brought as an offering to the Eternal such articles of gold as each of us came upon: armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and pendants, that expiation may be made for our persons before the Eternal." Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gold from them, all kinds of wrought articles. All the gold that was offered by the officers of thousands and the officers of hundreds as a contribution to the Eternal came to 16,750,000 shekels. But in the ranks, everyone kept his booty for himself. So Moses and Eleazar the priest accepted the gold from the officers of thousands and the officers of hundreds, and brought it to the tent of meeting as a reminder in behalf of the Israelites before the Eternal.
Oh, I just wanted to add something.
Okay.
We're in the middle of kind of a thunderstorm, so I might lose power. So I made Gary
Same here.
co-host.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's really pouring out there. I just noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
here too.
I got the
Yeah.
thunder, but I don't have the rain.
Oh, we
really?
get real powerful rain right now. Yeah.
Wow.
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 Okay. The Reubenites and the Gadites owned cattle in very great numbers, noting that the lands of Jazer and Gilead were a region suitable for cattle. The Gadite and Reubenite leaders came to Moses, Eleazar the priest, and the chieftains of the community and said, "Ataroth, Dibon, Jezer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elileh, Sebon, Nebo, and Beon. The land that the Eternal has conquered for the community of Israel is cattle country, and your servants have cattle. It would be a favor to us," they continued, "if this land were given to your servants as a holding. Do not move us across the Jordan." Moses replied to the Gadites and the Reubenites, "Are your brothers go to war while you stay here? Why will you turn the minds of the Israelites from crossing into the land that the Eternal has given them? That is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to survey the land. After going up to the Wadi Eshcol and surveying the land, they turned the minds of the Israelites from invading the land that the Eternal had given them. Thereupon the Eternal was incensed and swore, 'None of the men from 70 years up who came out of Egypt shall see the land that I promised an oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For they did not remain loyal to me, none except Caleb, son of Jephuneh, and the Kenzanite, and Joshua, son of Nun, for they remained loyal to the Eternal. The Eternal, incensed at Israel, made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years under the whole generation that had provoked the Eternal's displeasure was gone. And now you, a breed of sinful men, have replaced your fathers to add still further to the Eternal's wrath against Israel. If you turn away from God, who then abandoned them once more in the wilderness, you will bring calamity upon all this people." Oof. Then they stepped up to him and said, "We will build here sheepfolds for our flock and towns for our children, and we will hasten as shock troops in the van of the Israelites until we have established them in their home, while our children stay in the fortified towns because of the inhabitants of the land. We will not return to our homes until the Israelites, every one of them, are in possession of their portion. But we will not have a share with them in the territory beyond the Jordan, for we have received our share on the east side of the Jordan." Moses said to them, "If you do this, if you go to battle as shock troops at the instant of the Eternal, and every shock fighter among you crosses the Jordan at the instance of the Eternal until God has personally dispossessed the enemies, and then the land has been subdued at the instance of the Eternal, and then you return, you shall be clear before the Eternal and before Israel, and this land shall be your holding under the Eternal. But if you do not do so, you will have sinned against the Eternal, and know that your sin will overtake you. Build towns for your children and sheepfolds for your flocks, but do what you have promised. The Gadites and the Reubenites answered Moses, your servants will do as my Lord commands. Our children, our wives, our flocks, with all our other livestock will stay behind in the town of Gilead, while your servants, all those reunited for war, cross over at the instance of the Eternal to engage in battle as my Lord orders. Then Moses gave instructions concerning them to Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the family heads of the Israelite tribes. Moses said to them, if every shock fighter among the Gadites and the Reubenites crosses the Jordan with you to do battle, at the instant of the Eternal, and the land is subdued before you, you shall give them the land of Gilead as a whole. But if they do not cross over with you as shock troops, they shall receive holdings among you in the land of Canaan.
What do you think of that? What do you think about that?
Well, that's really interesting because it seems like I'm trying to read this over and make sure I'm not misunderstanding something. Crossing the Jordan with you shall give them the land of Gilead as a whole. And before they said they're giving the towns. So why is it one is giving the land of holding and the other one's actually getting the towns of Gilead?
Well, it sounds like the Gadites and the Reubenites want to stay east of the Jordan, right? They like the land, they like it for cattle.
Oh, I see.
And then then Moses. I don't think the Eternal's really involved with this deal, right? He's not really in there. He or she.
They're just talking about him.
Right. Moses is just like, remember what happened. Remember the Eternal was mad. And so it's interesting to me because this is the first time we've read this several times now, but it's the first time
I know,
I
and they
see
repeat so much. It's amazing how much they repeat. Yeah.
But it's interesting to me that they even if they don't fight for Israel on the other side of the Jordan, they are still going to get land in Canaan. There's no like, hey, sorry guys, it's there's almost like an extra. I don't know what you guys think of that. I thought that's like, wow, they still get land if they don't fight. But they probably will get less land maybe or something.
But the tribes are still supposed to inherit it,
Oh yeah.
So it's what it comes down to. It seems like is they just don't get what they want. They get what they just don't get the land that they want. What a bunch of huzzas, The other land's not good enough for them, right? God's taking them. Bunch of huzzas,
Hey, they liked what they saw there. I don't know.
You have to look down the line. There was famine, and they had to leave, and they went to Egypt. So
Right.
Yep.
They've been through a lot. They're like, why not this right here and now?
Yep.
Awesome. All right.
Does somebody else want to read now?
Sharon, you want to read number 31?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
The Gadites and the Reubenites said in reply, whatever the Eternal has spoken concerning your servants, that we will do. We ourselves will cross over the shock troops at the instance of the Eternal into the land of Canaan, and we shall keep our heredity. What is that? Oh, somebody's coming in.
Yes. Dr. Ed.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hear a doorbell. Oh, no, I lost my place. We shall keep our heredity holding across the Jordan. So Moses assigned to the Gadites, the Reubenites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihori, king of Ammonites, and the kingdom of King Og of Bashan, the land with its various cities and territories, their surrounding towns. The Gadites rebuilt Dibon, Ataroth, Arori, Athrop, Shaphan, Jazer, Jogbaha, Beth Nimrah, Beth Haran as fortified towns or as enclosures for flocks. The Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon, Elanan, Kirithaim, Nebo, Balmeon, some names being changed, and what they changed it to, Sibmah, they gave their own names to.
This is great. You're doing a great job, Sharon. This is a little tough. This is the usual time that Cynthia reads, and she has a tough time.
Yeah. Yeah, Cynthia's not here today.
Not tonight, so Sharon's taking the place.
Towns that they rebuilt. The descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and captured it, dispossessing the Amorites who were there. So Moses gave Gilead to Machir, son of Manasseh, and he settled there. Jair, son of Manasseh, went and captured their villages, which he renamed Havoth Jair. And Nobah went and captured Kenath and its dependencies, renaming it Nobah after himself.
All right, Dr. Ed, welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry about the loss in your family, your mother.
Thank you very much.
So sorry. All right, so this is the first portion, and now we're going to jump to Masai. Would you want to continue reading, Sharon?
Sure. Is it easier?
Maybe. In numbers is always tough because there's just lists and lists of things.
I know.
Listen.
But we've done this for a couple of parshas already.
Well, we used to do this in our Rosh Kodesh group, and I remember in numbers, it's just like on and on and repeat.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. These were the marches of the Israelites who started out from the land of Egypt, troop by troop, in the charge of Moses and Aaron. Moses recorded the starting points, of their various marches as directed by the Eternal. Their marches by starting points were as follows. They set out from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. It was on the morrow of Passover offering that the Israelites started out defiantly in plain view of all the Egyptians. The Egyptians, meanwhile, were burying those among them whom the Eternal had struck down, every male firstborn, whereby the Eternal executed judgment of their gods. The Israelites set out from Ramses and encamped in Succoth. They set out from Succoth and encamped at Etham, which is on the edge of the wilderness. They set out from Etham and turned about towards Pi Haroth, which faces Basel Zephon, and they encamped before Migdol. They set out from Pena Hahiroth and passed through the sea into the wilderness, and they made a 3 days journey into the wilderness, and they made 3 days journey in the wilderness of Etham and encamped at Mira. They set out from Mara and came to Elam. There were 12 springs in Elam and 70 palm trees, so they encamped there. They set out from Elam and encamped by the Sea of Reeds. They set out from the Sea of Reeds and encamped in the wilderness of Sin. They set out from the wilderness of Sin and encamped in Dothka. They set out from Dothka and encamped in Alush. They set up from Alush and encamped in Rephidim. It was there that the people had no water to drink. They set out from Rephidim and encamped in the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from the wilderness of Sinai and encamped at Kibroth Hatava. They set out from Kibroth Hatava and encamped in Hazeroth. They set out from Hazeroth and encamped in Rithma. They set out from Rithma and encamped at Rimon Perez. They set out,
Oh, I'm sorry. Something happened. Hold on. What happened? I don't know what's going on. Hold on. I have to probably shrink this down some. Why? This is bizarre. This never happened. Oh, sorry, guys. Talks amongst yourselves.
It's the thunder and lightning.
I know. It's like, all right, this looks better. Wait a minute.
Really pouring out
21.
there.
Is it?
Well,
I wish
where
it
I
was
am,
not-
it's pouring. Yeah.
I wish it would come here. That way I don't have to water my garden tonight.
Glad we need the rain.
We need it.
All right, hold on.
21 we're at, if that helps.
You got to blow it up a little. It's so tiny.
Oh, I'm back at the other parsha. Wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna blow it up once I get to the right place. 21. Where am I?
No, that's not the right.
That's not the right place either.
No.
So hold on.
Weren't we at Messiah?
Yeah, I thought this is Masai. 1, 2. All right, this looks more familiar. Hold on. And then 21. All right, here we go. Hold on, let me go to this. Got to blow it up to about 200.
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we go over here, go there. All right, 21.
Ah.
Maybe we can skip some of this because we're not taking, we don't have our maps out. We don't know which way they went.
Where do you want to go from here?
They set out from Rissa, Kahaletha, Mount Sephir,
Oh my God.
There it goes on and on, all the way from.
Well, they were wandering for 45
It is
years or
amazing. How about we jump to Mount Or? Okay, it's 37, and then we'll go to 38. Yeah.
Okay, they set out from Kadesh and encamped at Mount Hor on the edge of the land of Edom. Aaron the priest ascended Mount Or at the command of the Eternal and died there in the 40th year after the Israelites had left the land of Egypt. On the first day of the 5th month, Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Or, and the Canaanite king of Arad, who dwelt in the Negev in the land of Canaan, learned of the coming of the Israelites.
All right.
They set out from Mount Or and encamped in Zalmona. They set out from Zalmona and encamped in Punan. They set out from Punan and encamped in Oboth. They set out from Oboth and encamped in the Ir Abarim in the territory of Moab. They set out from Ir and encamped in Dibon-Gad. They set out from Dibon-Gad and encamped. You want to keep going through this, or do you want to move forward?
Yeah, this gets to be a little monotonous here.
You go to 50.
50. In the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, the Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you shall dispossess all the inhabitants of the land, and you shall destroy all their figured objects. You shall destroy all the molten images, and you shall demolish all their cult places. And you shall take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have assigned the land to you to possess. You shall apportion the land among yourselves by lot, clan by clan. With larger groups increase the share, and the smaller groups reduce the share. Wherever the lot falls for it, that shall be its location. You shall have your portions according to the ancestral tribes. But if you do not dispossess the inhabitants of the land, those whom you allow to remain shall be stings in your eyes and thorns in your sides." That's where thorns in your sides came from. "And they shall harass you in the land in which you live, so that I will do to you what I plan to do to them." Anybody else?
What are your
It's something-
thoughts about
yeah.
that?
That was a lot. Thank you, Sharon.
No problem. It sounds like this should have come before what we just read.
Yeah, I agree. I think
I think there's some mix up in chronological order on the Torah. I think there's a lot of mix. I've seen that before, that there's some mix up in chronological order.
but also the history of the tribes and the history of the Exodus out of Egypt, that gets repeated throughout all of the Tanakh and all of I mean, even through the Psalms. There's a psalm that's just about that. I mean, it's such a remarkable story that it needs to be told and retold. And
we do it every
significance-
Passover.
yeah,
We continue to read.
The significance of their journey was important. I mean, or it wouldn't have been recorded, you know.
right. And it became huge, for the entire world, right? I mean, all the Christians read those stories and think about those things, about one God, and about how God doesn't like it when people worship false gods. So this is one of the most vital stories. Does anyone want to pick it up at 34:1? Dr. Ed or Gary or myself?
I can do it if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Ed.
The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Instruct the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you as your portion, the land of Canaan, with its various boundaries. Your southern sector shall extend from the wilderness of Zin alongside Edom. Your southern boundary shall start on the east from the tip of the Dead Sea. Your boundary shall then turn to pass south of the ascent of Akrabim and continue to Zin, and its limits shall be south of Kadesh Barnea, reaching Hazar Adar and continuing to Asmon. From Asmon, the boundary shall turn toward the Wadi of Egypt and terminate at the sea. For the western boundary, you shall have the coast of the Great Sea that shall serve as your western boundary. This shall be your northern boundary. Draw a line from the Great Sea to Mount Hor. From the Mount Hor, draw a line to Lebo Hamath, and let the boundary reach Zedad. The boundary shall then run to Ziphron and terminate at Hazar Enan. That shall be your northern boundary."
When they talk about Great Sea, they're talking about the Mediterranean.
No, I think they're talking about the maybe. I thought they were talking about the Galilee, but maybe.
Oh no, I thought the Great Sea would be the Mediterranean. That's not the
Big.
Great Sea. The Galilee is not that big.
The
No.
Mediterranean would be on the west. What does it say for the west? Is that the Great Sea? Go down a little bit, Mike, please. This shall be your northern boundary. The western boundary, you shall have the coast of the Great Sea. So that has to be the Mediterranean.
Yeah, that has to be the Mediterranean. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
For the eastern boundary, you should draw a line from the Hazaran to Sepham. From Sepham, the boundary shall descend to Riblah. On the east side of Ain, from the boundary shall continue downward and about on the eastern slopes of the Sea of Chinnereth. The boundary shall then descend along the Jordan and terminate at the Dead Sea. That shall be your land as defined by its boundaries on all sides. Moses instructed the Israelites, saying, "This is the land you are to receive by lot as your hereditary portion, which the Eternal has commanded to be given to the 9.5 tribes. For the Reubenite tribe by its ancestral houses, the Gadite tribe by its ancestral houses, and the half tribe of Manasseh have already received their portions. Those 2.5 tribes have received their portions across the Jordan, opposite Jericho, on the east, the orient side." The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "These are the names of the commissioners through whom the land shall be appointed for you. Eleazar the priest of Joshua, son of Nun. And you shall also take a chieftain from each tribe through whom the land shall be apportioned. These are the names of the commissioners from the tribe of Judah: Caleb, son of Jephunneh. From the Simonite tribe, Samuel, son of Amminhad. From the tribe of Benjamin, Elidad, son of Shislon. From the Danite tribe of the chieftain, Bukki, son of Jogli. Down from line 28, from the Nephatite tribe, the chieftain Pedahal, son of Ammihudid. It was from those the Eternal designated to all the portions of the Israelites in the land of Canaan. The Eternal One spoke to Moses in the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho, saying, "Instruct the Israelite people to assign out of the holdings a portion to them, towns for the Levites to dwell in, You shall also assign to the Levites pasture lands around the towns. The towns shall be theirs to dwell in, and the pastures shall be for the cattle they own and all their other beasts. The town pasture that you are to assign to the Levites shall extend 1,000 cubits outside the town wall all around. You shall measure off 2,000 cubits outside the town on the east side, 2,000 on the south side, 2,000 on the west side, and 2,000 on the north side, with the town in its center. That shall be the pasture for their towns.
Oh, I got to stop right here. This is exactly what the colonists did in America. They put the commons right in the center of the town.
Yep.
You know that? That's like amazing. I didn't even know that. Wow.
They're also setting up the cities of refuge, which is interesting too.
All right. Right.
Well, the center of the towns were pastures for everybody.
The commons, yes.
Farmers and pastures, you know. And
Fascinating.
also the place where people could meet. We're in the center of the towns, you know. The towns that you'll assign to the Levites shall comprise of 6 cities of refuge that you are to designate for a male killer to flee to which you shall add 42 towns. Thus the total of the towns that you assign to the Levites shall be 48 towns with their pasture. In assigning towns from the holdings of the Israelites, take more from that larger group and less from the smaller, so that each assigned town to the Levites in proportion to the shares it receives. The Eternal One spoke further to Moses, speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, you shall provide yourselves with places to serve you as cities of refuge in which a male killer who has slain a person unintentionally may flee. The city shall serve as a refuge from the avenger, so that the killer may not die unless he stood trial before the assembly. The towns that you thus assign shall be 6 cities in all of refuge in all. 3 cities shall be designated beyond the Jordan, and the other 3 shall be designated in the land of Canaan. They shall serve as cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall serve the Israelites and the resident aliens among them for refuge, so that any man who slays a person unintentionally may flee there. Anyone, however, who strikes another with an iron object so that death results is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. If one struck another with a stone tool that could cause death and the death resulted, the person is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. Similarly, if one struck another with a wooden tool that could cause death and death resulted, that person is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. It is the blood avenger who shall put the murderer to death. This is who shall put the person to death upon encounter. So too, if one pushed another in hate or hurled something at the victim on purpose, the death resulted. Or if one struck another with a hand in enmity, and death resulted. The assailant shall be put to death. That person is a murderer. The blood avenger shall put the murderer to death upon encounter. But if a man push without malice a form thought or hurled any object to the victim unintentionally or inadvertently dropped upon the victim any deadly object of stone and death resulted, though not being an enemy and not seeking to harm. In such cases, the assembly shall decide between the slayer and the blood avenger. The assembly shall protect the killer from the blood avenger, and the assembly shall restore him to the city of refuge to which he fled, and there he shall remain until death of the highest priest who was anointed with all sacred oil. But if the killer ever goes outside the limits of the city of refuge to which he has fled, and the blood avenger comes upon him outside the limits of the city of refuge, and the blood avenger kills the killer, there is no blood guilt on his account, for he must remain inside the city of refuge until the death of the high priest. After the death of the high priest, the killer may return to his land holding.
Who's the blood avenger? Who's that? Gary, are you?
I just think that whoever's job it would be to exact the punishment, you know,
I think
the
it's a family.
executioner.
I think it's a person's family. You know, uh, we have already seen an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This is the first time in history people are setting up definitions of what a murderer is, and they're putting people in jail. And they're not actually jail, but sanctuary cities. If this person has to go to a sanctuary city and can't leave, then he is, for all intents and purposes, cannot see his family, and he's in jail. I think it's kind of interesting that this sets definitions and also sets uh, punishments.
What I think is interesting is the fact that the term of time that the person is supposed to stay there is only determined by the length of life for the high priest. Like, you could be sent to a sanctuary city, and then like 2 or 3 days later, the high priest could drop dead. So you'd actually, it wouldn't be a smart thing to do if you're getting away to avoid, somebody avenging. But I'm just saying, in theory, you know what I'm saying? You could be sent to a sanctuary city, and a few days later, or even a couple of weeks later, whatever, the high priest can die.
Or you
That's
could be stuck in
interesting.
that city for the rest of your life.
Right, and if you leave the city, whatever happens to you, no problem.
Mm.
Yeah, that's interesting too. But that makes sense, though, I guess.
Yeah, and then they also have trials, right? That's the interesting thing here.
That's when the law was fear. So I look at it. Everything was, it was clearly explained what happens to you.
The old eye for the eye. All right. Anybody else want to read? Do you mind if I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do.
Such shall be your law of procedure throughout the ages in all your settlements. If anyone slays a person, the killer may be executed only on the evidence of witnesses. The testimony of a single witness against a person shall not suffice for a death sentence. Oh my! See, look at this. This is like
This
is
part,
true
this
today.
is very interesting because you have to have two people who saw the same thing. So it can't be a he said, she said.
Right? Isn't that true today? That we need a corroborating witness? Yeah.
Not really.
No? It's better evidence, right? Ruth, you're muted. I hear you. I see you want to say something. I
You're
can't hear you,
muted,
Ruth.
Ruth.
Can't hear you, Ruth.
Yeah, for some reason, my microphone wouldn't unmute. I tried unmuting it. Now it's working. I don't know why.
What were you going to say?
Forgot what I was going to say.
That's our Ruthie. All right. You may not accept a ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of a capital crime. A murderer must be put to death. Now, nor may you accept ransom in lieu of flight to a city of refuge, enabling a man to return to live on his land before the death of the priest. You shall not pollute the land in which you live, for blood pollutes the land, and the land can have no expiation for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of one who shed it. You shall not defile the land in which you live, in which I myself abide, for I, the Eternal, abide among the Israelite people. Wow, that's pretty heavy stuff. Gary, you want to take it at 36?
Sure. The family heads in the clan of the descendants of Gilead, son of Machir and the son of Menashe, one of the Josephite clans, came forward and appealed to Moses and the chieftains, family heads of the Israelites. They said, "The Eternal commanded my Lord to assign the land to the Israelites as shares by lot, and my Lord was further commanded by the Eternal to assign the share of our kinsman Zelophehad to his daughters. Now if they marry persons from another Israelite tribe, their share will be cut off from our ancestral portion and be added to the portion of the tribe into which they marry. Thus our allotted portion will be diminished. And even when the Israelites observe the Jubilee, their share will be added to that of the tribe into which they marry, and their share will be cut off from the ancestral portion of our tribe. So Moses, at the Eternal's bidding, instructed the Israelites, saying, the plea of the Josephite tribe is just. This is what the Eternal has commanded concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. They may marry anyone they wish, provided they marry into a clan of their father's tribe. No inheritance of the Israelites may pass over from one tribe to another, but the Israelite heirs, each of them, must remain bound to the ancestral portion of their tribe. Every daughter among the Israelite tribes who inherits a share must marry someone from a clan of her father's tribe, in order that every Israelite heir may keep an ancestral share. Thus no inheritance shall pass over from one tribe to another, but the Israelite tribes shall remain bound, each to its portion. The daughters of Zelophehad did as the Eternal had commanded Moses. Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, Noah, Zelophehad's daughters, were married to sons of their uncles, marrying into clans of descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph. And so their share remained in the tribe of their father's clan. These are the commandments and regulations that the Eternal enjoined upon the Israelites through Moses on the steppes of Moab at the Jordan near Jericho. Chazak, chazak, v'nit hazak.
That's it, right.
Do you want to say it together? Isn't that what it? That didn't.
Yeah.
Chazak, chazak,
Chazak,
v'nit
Hazak.
Which means, Dr. Ed, I think you or anyone, from strength to strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? What does it say exactly? From strength to
We always
strength.
say that at the end of when we
Awesome.
finish each book of the Torah.
All right, we're finished Numbers.
Yay!
Well, so that means we're getting to my favorite. I love the Deuteronomy.
Deuteronomy.
Yeah, that's a really great one.
Because
It
that's
really
where
is.
Moses lets it all hang out. Tells the people what schmendricks they've been. How he's being punished because they're a bunch of, he blames everything on them. So, methodically he lays it all out there. I can't go into the promised land because what you did at the waters of,
Yeah.
Sharon, how's your father?
My father is doing well, thank you. He's now over at Legacy.
I know. I don't see him all the time.
No, because Assad left. Assad's last day was May 3rd, I believe. And my father's now in Legacy. He's doing
Yeah.
okay.
But we see him on Shabbat morning, Ed. If you join
That's
in
right.
on Shabbat morning, you see him all the time.
And this
Yep.
week he ended up having breakfast late, so he was very engaged this week because he was awake. And he was singing. He's got the worst voice. But he was
no
singing.
way! He's got a great
yes,
voice.
way. No, he doesn't.
He does
Oh,
not have
no way.
Sharon,
But
how old is he
Abe
now?
can sing.
How old is
On June 28th, he had his 97th birthday.
he?
God bless him.